fellow travelers, and welcome to Versus Stars podcast. All my loyal listeners, thank you for your continued support. And remember, click the subscribe button, everybody. This is an amazing episode because Kylar Merrell boards the mothership. You know him from Comics from the Kitchen on Zoop. Come on board as we go traversing the stars. Hello, Mr. Merrell. Thank you so much for coming to the Versus Stars podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Total pleasure to talk with you, sir. So I always start off with a question of inspiration. So what inspired your love for comics and who were your earliest influences?
I've always been like a creative person. Just like always loved to write and things like that. And that was always, I don't know, it was just whatever was going on, like whatever books were big at the time was, Harry Potter and then Percy Jackson, things like that. I read all those and I always wanted to write, and especially write in like a fantasy, science fiction, some kind of genre like that. But for comics particularly, it came about in I can like tell you exactly like what it was. It was the New 52 in 2011. DC dropped The Flash #1, and it was by Francis Manapul, where he was the artist. I always say that, but I always forget to mention that Brian Buccellato does the writing on that. But it was Francis Manapul's artwork that like really stuck out to me and made me realize that like comics could be something different and could be like weren't just because, and I've said this before, but like comics is like, to me before that was either like really gritty 90s extreme stuff or was like very corny campy Adam West stuff. And so like his artwork it's still very obviously superhero style, it's still very typical DC style, but it's done in a way that really meshes with that character. And altogether that was like kind of the thing that really turned me on to wanting to like really getting into comics. And from there it was just channeling my my desire that was already there to be a writer and just to now do that in a different medium.
So you're now the creator and editor of a new anthology called Comics from the Kitchen, which is a very cool concept. I really appreciate that. What inspired its creation?
I mean, it's something we've all heard, but it was write what you love. So, or something to that degree, something to that, sentiment. But I I I just finished my previous anthology, Fletcher Cross, and knew I wanted to do another one. And so again, write what you love. I love to cook. I love to eat. I love food, anything like that. And so I just decided why not combine those two things. And I knew, and like I said, I knew that I knew I wanted to do an anthology, just an anthology, and I knew that I didn't feel confident enough to do a cookbook on my own. To just be like, this is this is a recipe book that's just all me, all comics by me, all recipes by me. I don't think I'm that. I didn't want to do all of that comics work. I didn't think I had that many stories in me about food. I don't think I'm the person to make a whole giant cookbook by myself. So it's like, I'm going to bring in these other people. And that kind of inspired the prompt, which was, tell food brings out memories in us. And so let's, tell us about that memory. Tell us about a specific food memory that you have. And then not only do you get to tell us that story, you get to give us the recipe for it. And as I've gone and created this, I've kind of realized that those two concepts really they really fit each other. They really help raise the other one up.
So how did you come across the contributors to the anthology?
I just put out a post I posted on my usual places, which are still kind of is. We'll see how it goes considering stuff that's going on, but Reddit, on the Comic Book Collab subreddit, and the Facebook group, the Comic Book Anthology Creators, and just on Twitter. And just I had a forum up on my website and let people just submit whatever they felt like. And for the most part, I think everybody, or if not everybody, probably 90% of the people got in, because it was just, can these people tell a story? And is this someone that I think I can work with, would be good to work with? And then we've had some not mishaps necessarily, but we've had some people who've had to drop out for various reasons. We had one member who when a couple people just you couldn't do it, just like, hey, this won't fit my schedule. One contributor had a serious medical issue that came up, and so she wasn't able to contribute. And so so from there I went to another group that I'm a part of, the Comic Jam, and I
Mm.
found I got 3 stories from the Comic Jam who just people who were like, yeah, dude, I'd love to be a part of this. I'd love to help you. First of all, just we're like, I'd love to be a part of it. And second of all, we're like, yeah, I'm down to help out. I understand this is on a short deadline. And so they that was a group that was a big help, because for a minute there, after I had several people drop out as the deadline approached, I got really nervous. And so to know that there were people who were like ready to jump up and be like, "Oh yeah, I'm down." It was awesome.
Mm. So, how many stories in total and contributors do you have in total?
I don't know if I can tell you the amount of contributors. I think we're at 20 or 21
Oh,
stories, I
wow.
think. I can't ever remember because I have one and I can't remember if when I count that if I'm counting myself or not. But I think for contributors, because most of our stories are done, I won't look it up right now, but most of our stories are done by a writer artist solo creator, by a cartoonist.
Mm.
And so I would say we're probably at around 30 to 35 total,
Mm.
somewhere in there for total creators, counting, letterers and artists and writers. And I think maybe a colorist or two, but for the most part, that was done by artists. But yeah, so we're probably sitting in the 30 to 35 range, but 21, I think 20 or 21 stories altogether.
Now, how difficult is it to make an anthology? Not only are you shepherding all these different stories, focusing on your own, but you're somewhat hostage to the quality of the contributors who may be submitting. How so? Is it more nerve wracking because of it? Is it less nerve because at least it's other people as works as well?
It's a bit of both. I do like the fact that I'm with other people, that I know that there are other people who are going to
Mm.
push the book. Because if it's just me making something, I'm it. I'm the only person who's out there tweeting about it, posting about it. Maybe I'll have a friend or two who's like, hey, let's, support this. But like to get like to for me, what's helped to get more people interested in what I've got going on has been to involve other people.
Mm.
And so I like that aspect. It is a little bit nerve-wracking um to include art style other creators, because and this is something that I had to discover for myself when I started getting into comics and creating them, or when I started actually drawing my own comics, was like, your style's not for everybody,
Mm.
but someone will like it. It will be for someone. And it kind of goes back to what I initially when I said when I was talking about, finding contributors and things like that, was my most important quality for all these people was can they tell a story? And
Mm.
so I looked at their samples and was like, this art tells a story. I know what's going on. I get it. And so that was the priority, not is this art to my taste necessarily? Is this art, necessarily what I think is the best thing ever?
Mm.
Which, but I do think that everyone tells a story. And I think that everyone in here, um, you know, does an amazing job at communicating a feeling and communicating the memory, because that's
Mm.
what a lot of these stories are. We do have some fun, we do have some, some fictional ones, we do have a little post-apocalyptic joint going on, we have some pirates, we got some other things going on, but you know a lot of these stories are just straight memories.
Mm.
A lot of them are childhood memories, but we also have others that are from adulthood, and from some that are from the last few years that you know you can feel that in the story, and that's like been consistently the
Mm.
thing that I've been looking forward to most, and been looking out for when I've gone through, editing scripts and looking at artwork, has been like, this, yes, this has the heart, this has the emotion that I think this anthology needs.
So, because like I said, not only is this an anthology with great stories, but like you said, there's recipes attached to it.
Yeah.
Now, how challenging was it to have the comic book writers who can actually create a recipe?
I mean, I didn't like have a lot of guidelines. Like it wasn't like your recipe has to. It wasn't like, and I did anything where I was like, okay, you have to submit your recipe beforehand. I'm gonna make the recipe. If the recipe's not up to par, you're not in. It was again pretty much like I cared about the comic first. That was definitely my priority here,
Mm.
and then the recipes came later, and so I didn't really, like I said, I didn't really, wasn't particular about what the recipes were. Like I wasn't looking for, you know, this is only going to be desserts, this is only going to be breakfast, or this is only going to be sides or whatever. But I mean, one thing I was kind of definitely looking out for was like an international
Mm.
multicultural type of thing, because I knew I didn't just want it to be, just here's, regular old, I wanted to have lots of different tastes and to have new things as well as being
Mm.
just, food you could find in any other cookbook. I wanted this to be a bit of a good combination, a bit of a um I can't think of the word, but it's like a big melting pot. There you go. It's a good cooking metaphor. But anyway, simile technically. But no, I just and some of the recipes aren't super complicated. They're not like world ending, gonna blow your mind. Like, I can't believe he added saffron. It's nothing like that. It's just like my recipe is one or half of my recipe. My recipe's for fish and hush puppies. And for the fish, I have the recipe the same way that my grandpa used to make it, which is out of a bag. And so like it's not that intense. But kind of what I alluded to earlier was that um and I'm not saying this just about my own story to toot my own horn. It goes for a lot of the stories in there, is that um when I because the book's formatted in such a way that you read the story and then you get the recipe for it. Then
Mm.
you read the story and then you get the recipe for it. And um for one thing, those recipe pages are done in a consistent style to like make it a kind of a palate cleanser of sorts. But what that does is it lets the reader read the story, and then they get to, if they choose to make it, or even if they don't choose to make it, they get to actually see the real recipe that
Mm.
was used for that same dish that was just in the story. And so it adds a level of that heart, that emotion that I was talking about before. It adds another level of it by, you getting to actually, the reader actually getting to be a part of it.
Mm.
And then the same thing goes for you know, the recipe, like I said, so you get to, the recipe helps lift the story lifts the recipe. It all kind of works together, and like it just creates this really great fusion, I think, that like perfectly encapsulates cookbook and comic anthology, especially one that's so personal to people.
So, I mean, that brings up an important point. What is so important about food?
Um, I just think food is something that we all we all like food. We, for one thing, we all have to eat food. But two, I think on some level we all love it. And some of us actually love to cook more than others. Some of us couldn't be bothered. And that's fine. But even if you don't like to cook, I guarantee you that you have a memory of food. And, that might be, the apple pie that your grandma used to make every Thanksgiving, or it, could be that weird little way that you learned to put cheese on your ramen in college when you couldn't afford anything else. Whatever that recipe was, we all have some kind of memory that we really associate with food. And like I can immediately, if I, cook my recipe for myself, the fish and hush puppies, I can immediately be back in my grandpa's kitchen. I can immediately be back on the back porch with him cooking it.
Mm.
And a lot of us have things like that, that if we have, whatever it is, whether it's, I don't know, ham, chocolate chip cookies, mashed potato, something that like someone in your family used to make. If you have that again, you'll immediately go back. I
Mm.
guarantee it. And we all have that. And it's like it's just such an evocative thing. It evokes a lot of memory, it evokes a lot of emotion out of people, food does. And so to be able to capture that here, that was kind of the whole goal.
I think what I love about the anthology a lot is that just reading the parts I've been able to read has got me thinking about my own food related memories in my head. I'm
Mhm.
like, oh, I remember that, and oh, there was, a restaurant or some food involved with that memory as well. And it really is funny how prominent food does
Mhm.
show in a lot of very significant memories.
Well, yeah, I originally didn't have a story in this anthology. But after seeing all these other people, I kind of did the same thing, seeing all the stories that were coming in. I was like, okay, I want to like maybe I can think of something. And
Mm.
then I immediately thought of fishing with my grandpa and then cooking and it all just kind of came together and I was like had this whole little memory just encapsulated for me. And then being able to write that and draw it and then letter it and then to do all that um in the midst of his passing was like a really big thing for me
Mm.
because it allowed a lot of catharsis to really do it. And it's especially because I don't know that I could have done that if he had like passed away a while, you know what I mean? I don't know that
Mm.
I would have been able to, but like it just kind of happened by chance. I was like, let's just throw the story together. I was gonna show him, and then I never got a chance to show him. And so like
Mm.
it was just a really great opportunity for me. And like I said, I didn't even plan to. It just kind of worked out, and everything's just kind of worked out ever since then, as far as that stuff goes.
Now, do you find that your favorite stories and your favorite recipes tend to go together, or are you finding something like I really love the recipe that's better, or that some stories are fantastic, you like it better than the recipe that's next to it?
There have been a few. Okay, I'm trying not to burn any bridges here. Um, let me put it this way. There's been a few where the recipe has been very short. And I've been like, I kind of, reading the comic and like seeing their pitch and everything. I expected like some really grand, like, big thing of like, here's, you got to add 2 milliliters of this and 2 dashes of that. And it's all gonna, and so like, there's some where I'll say underwhelmed, I guess. It's just because I was like, oh man, I expected like some big, huge recipe here. But for the most part, I do think that my favorite recipes in the book do go with my favorite stories because of what I talked about earlier. Like the recipe is cool and like it seems like a good recipe, but like having read the story and
Mm.
seen some of the production go into it and seen it at various stages of the process, um, I think actually, I think even with discounting the production side of it, me getting to see behind the scenes, I still think that just the stories alone have made me want to try some of the recipes more, just because of again getting to be a part of that memory.
Mm. So, have you tried any of the recipes yet?
No, but I have a good reason. I have a good reason, and I've been saying this. I did today actually just got done. Okay, I don't know if I got done moving. I moved all my stuff over today.
Yeah.
Finally got finished moving all my stuff over. Everything is still in boxes. There's still 2 boxes on my desk right now. There's one drawer that's not even in the desk. So we're just kind of winging it here. But I have not had the opportunity yet. There are 3 or 4 that are on my like immediate to-do list.
Mm.
And so, I'm definitely going to get into those. Hopefully if I can get everything together here in the next few days. My goal when I started was I wanted to do some like cooking streams and try to do that because I just
Mm.
wanted to get more into streaming and stuff, just for myself, not for like any real monetary purpose or anything. But so I want to do that. But at the very least, do plan to. I've already done some cooking videos. I'm if I can swing it, I want to get a couple more of them in here with some of the actual recipes from the book. So,
Mm. So, Comics from the Kitchen is now on Zoop. So, why did you choose Zoop for the campaign for this campaign?
um, I mean, Zoop was just it was a new platform. It still is a relatively new platform. And so I wanted to see what it was like because it definitely has a lot of things, a lot of reasons to try it, a lot of draws to the platform. It's very hands off. They take care of a lot of the heavy lifting. They help promote it some. And so I wanted to kind of just try this out, see how it goes. There wasn't really anything else to it than that. It wasn't like this is, this platform stands with my morals or anything better than another one. I mean, I think that thought process kind of definitely went through my mind a little bit, especially near the very, very beginning of the process, because there was stuff going on with Kickstarter supposedly at the time that still hasn't happened. So, that was all on my mind, and I think that probably had some degree of um influence on my decision. And I did talk to a couple people who had run Zoop campaigns, and they'd had, they'd been successful. And so it was just kind of a, let's try this out, because I know how. And I think there's a lot that was in my mind, and I still don't know whether this is right or wrong, was it's a crowdfunding platform, how different can it be?
Yeah.
And to a degree, I think that's true. But like I said, I don't really know the full extent of that yet. But we'll have to see.
Now, are there any significant differences between using Zoop and using Kickstarter from either the backer standpoint or from your standpoint?
Well, I'll start with from my standpoint. It's a lot more hands off, like I mentioned. So, how that kind of works is I just upload all my files, and just like I filled out a spreadsheet basically with all of my information. Like, here's the dates for the campaign. Here's how much we're raising. Here's here's all the creators. Here's all that stuff. Here's the images to go with the different tiers. I just uploaded all they made. They made it all happen. And so that's kind of the main difference. I will say, as a creator, you don't have as much access to like pre-launch followers like you do on Kickstarter. You don't have access to on Kickstarter you have your whole I can't remember what it's called, but like the little page where you get to like see like where different people came
Oh
from,
yeah,
and
yeah,
like,
yeah. Backer
yeah,
report.
there you go. And I don't have that on Zoop, which is you know I don't know how much I would actually be able to use that directly in a campaign, but it's still nice to know that it's there. And so
Mm.
to not have that just makes me feel like weird. It makes me feel like I'm doing something wrong, because I can't analyze it and tell
Yeah.
what's really going on. And so but that's all part of it being hands off. So there's pros and cons to that, and that's just the main difference in the platforms that it's
Mm.
more hands off. But from a consumer perspective, it's just the main difference is that Zoop doesn't really run on a tier system like Kickstarter does. It doesn't have, here's your $10 tier that gets you a PDF, and here's your $25 tier that gets you a book, and here's your $40 tier where you get 2 copies, all that stuff that Kickstarter has. It just has, if you want 2 copies of the book, you just click the little plus sign twice, and it adds 2 copies to your cart. And it works basically like a regular e-commerce site from there. But like,
Mm.
so if you want the print, if you want one of our handwritten recipe cards, if you want any of the extra foreign press books, you just click the plus sign and add it yourself. You don't have to go and, oh well, does this tier we do have a few bundles though, which is like, I put all the physical copies of any foreign press comic on there, and we have a digital bundle, I have a retailer bundle, things like that. But um for the most part, it's just, and it is a lot easier, just from a new person's perspective, I think. I know Kickstarter can definitely be overwhelming for a consumer, especially for someone who's not experienced with using Kickstarter. And so to just go to a website like that where you sign up like just like you would on Amazon. You just sign up, you click on the page, you click, okay, I want to copy the book, I want a PDF, and I want whatever else you want. Just add, and then just check it out like a normal cart. It's pretty self-explanatory.
So, what are some of your favorite rewards that are available in the campaign?
I always like to mention we have our retailer slash library bundle, which is just 5 copies at my retailer discount. But as far as everything else goes, I mean, there's nothing too complicated. We have if anybody has a comic coming out in the end of this year, we do have ads in the back of the book, full page ads for $100. And then a lot of our add-ons, like I mentioned earlier, we have you can get a print of the book, and one of the ones that I'm excited about and also scared of is handwritten recipe cards, which is I will do as many as I have to. But I will, handwrite a recipe, because I think most of us remember, a mom or a grandmother or someone in our family having a box of recipes written on index cards. And so that was kind of the thing behind that, was to you know uh bring that memory back up, and kind of as a little callback to that we all remember so well, whether or not we all have still have a recipe box or anything like that. But my recipe box is my phone. But anyway, uh that's kind of one of the ones. And then, like I said, I'm just excited about being able to offer all of our other our whole back catalog as part of the campaign as well. So any foreign press books, PDFs, physical printed copies that you haven't gotten, that you want to get, go there and get it all.
So now that you have experience from it, what is the key to creating a successful campaign?
I still don't know that I can tell you that, if I'm being honest, because like prior to, because I've had unsuccessful campaigns before, and so prior to this I would have said, like, or I would have just said, promotion, and talking about enough build up to it is a big part. But I think I did that decently well. I mean, at least compared to how I've done it in the past. And so I don't know that I've learned anything specific with this campaign. You know what I mean? I do think that what I said, like, as far as promoting it, talking about it, especially like promoting it from way before you're pre-launched, from like way out. I know that, like, months in advance, to start talking about it, pepper it in on a tweet or on a Facebook post, or every once in a while just mention it. And then you can then once you actually get to your pre-launch, that helps people know it's there. And then even leave that pre-launch window pretty wide open, like 1 or 2 months there. But I don't think I've learned anything specifically from this campaign, at least not yet. So we'll see how that turns out. I'll let you know.
So between which dates is the campaign running for? When does it end?
It started on May 30th and runs until June 29th. So at the time of recording, we have about 12 days left.
All right, very cool. Mr. Merrell, it's been an absolute honor to speak with you, sir. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.